My grandmother used to call that the golden rule. And I've got some of my family sitting out here. I'm wondering if they remember that also. When those saints go marching in. In a certain town, a man walked into a bookstore to return a purchase. "It's a Bible," he said, handing it to the clerk at the cash register. "Was it a gift?" said the clerk. "No, I bought it for myself," he said. "But I made a mistake." "Didn't you like the translation or the format?" the clerk said. "Oh, no," the man said. "The format was clear and the translation was fine. I just made a mistake." I'm so sorry. "Well," the clerk says, "but I still need a reason why you're returning it." "In that case," the man said, I think I'm going to need a cough drop. Somebody, I don't know where they are. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bonnie. I've been like this all night for the last few nights, so I apologize. This is a tough one. Let's see. Well, we know that the man purchased a Bible. We know that the clerk wanted to know why it was coming back. We know that the man couldn't give a really good answer, and the clerk said, "Well, I need to write something down." And the man finally said, "Well, in that case, write down that there's just a lot in that book that's tough to swallow." Doesn't that remind us of last week's sermon? Sometimes it's tempting to boil the whole Bible down in just a few verses, like Luke's version of the Beatitudes. It's an impossible task. There are some passages in the Bible that are tough to swallow. Again, when we talked about 2 Timothy last week. But today, Jesus was speaking to those who were victims and those who were oppressed. He is not telling them to roll over and play dead, no. His words are nonviolent, yes, but he's asking them to be resistant to oppression. All through the New Testament, Jesus shows compassion for the less fortunate. He has compassion on the society of that day, and the same compassion that he shows us each and every day. We as Christians are being called to show that kind of compassion. So this text is difficult to understand because the Lord describes the world in different ways, quite different from the ways that we're accustomed to seeing it. The ones whom the world ignores are the ones who receive God's blessings. The ones whom the world honors are the ones who are cursed. It's completely reverse of the way we usually see things. God blesses those who are hungry for righteousness. Jesus gives us a picture, though, today of how we should be living. We are the poor. We are the hungry, and we are the mourners. We are often poor in spirit. Our souls are often hungry for spiritual nourishment. We weep for those who do not know God. And the entire key of the Beatitudes is about faithfulness. Jesus told people to find new ways of resisting evil. Love your enemies, he says. Oh, that's so hard to do in today's world. Sometimes it doesn't even seem practical. People do whatever it takes to get ahead. They don't care whose back they step on. Sometimes it's not practical at all. Getting ahead just seems to come natural. Maybe some of you remember the tragic story of Matthew Shepard. He was the Wyoming I'm going to say teen, but he was a young man who was brutally beaten for being gay. Beaten because one man felt that he had made a pass at him. The man felt foolish and unmanly, so he got a group of friends to help him put this young college student in his place. Those two beat Matthew over and over and over again, tied him to a fence on a country road, and left him alone, freezing in the night. By the time Matthew was found, there was no way to save him. Matthew's shepherd died as hundreds stood in candlelight vigil outside his hospital. The two men were arrested, tried, and convicted of a brutal hate crime. Proved guilty of first-degree murder, they deserved the death penalty in the state of Wyoming. But Matthew's mother came before the judge. She asked the judge to spare the lives of those two guilty men. I can't even fathom. I have no understanding of the type of agony that mother went through, those months leading up to the trial. What mother could ever imagine her beloved son tied to a fence, beaten and alone through a cold night? What kind of inhumane people could do that to another human being? Love your enemies, Jesus said. Do good to those who hate you. When we hear those words, we need to remember Matthew's mother, who was shaped by the gospel, deeper than hatred, stronger than revenge. I don't know if I could have done what she did. I hope and pray I could have. But we should see her as a witness to the power of the gospel. Such love isn't practical, but it changes the world. And Luke was out to prove that Jesus came to do away with distinctions that made some people think they were better than others. He is a universal God, a universal gospel, and the universe is populated by the less fortunate. And we see Luke and Jesus on their sides. The rich had problems hearing and rejoicing in the gospel because it was told to them in a way that made them have to change. But on the other hand, the poor heard him gladly because the message was filled with hope and liberation. This is where the gospel becomes vital and life-changing. Christ asks us to reverse the normal way of thinking and let our hearts and minds be ruled by blessings, loving, forgiving all those who might persecute us. And as we do those things to others, we learn not to do them ourselves. The Beatitudes must be our attitudes. If not, why not? The Beatitudes call on us to look at our lives and accept the blessings that God gives as a sign of His faithfulness. His faithfulness to us, and to return to a way of living in such a way that we show by our word and by our example and our faithfulness and our commitment that we can proclaim the gospel, the good news of God in Christ to others. So on All Saints' Day, I ask that we remember the ordinary people with extraordinary commitment. Saints are ordinary Christians whose lives reflected the teachings and the life of Christ. The Beatitudes call us to live lives that reflect the life of Jesus. And in so doing, we become saints on earth. It's not easy, just like it wasn't easy in Jesus' time. He spoke these words to encourage people, to encourage us. And we can take heart today because bad things happen to good people. And yet, we must rejoice because they receive the reward in heaven. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. We build on the foundation that the saints of the past laid by Christ's message to the next generation. To do so, we need to be ordinary people of extraordinary commitment as well. We need to be living the gospel. We need to be counted in that number that Glenn and Tom so richly played for us in the song that we opened today. When the saints go marching in, oh Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in. Amen. Our saints today, if my deacons can come forward, if my ringers can come forward, if my florists can come forward. In your bulletin is an insert of all the saints that we remember. You are welcome to just listen, or you are welcome to follow along. If I have a family that is representing the saint listed, would you please stand and receive a flower? Our first saint today is Margaret Esper. Margaret was a long-time member at First Congregational. She entered at the age of 16 and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1932. Margaret missed her 103rd birthday by just weeks when she passed away. We remember Margaret Esper. Is there anyone from the Esther family? Can we put it into the vase, please? Thank you. Marjorie Hughes Brewer. Marjorie was a graduate of Owasso High School and attended the University of Toledo. Marjorie was a long-time member. Her daughter, Piper, is the executive director of the Shiawassee County Arts Council. And her beloved sister, and her sister will say the naughty one, that Marjorie was the good one. But the naughty one is Jackie. Jackie, would you please stand, and can we present a flower in Marjorie's name to Jackie? She's saying a flower for being bad. Jennifer Spindler Gulus. A bright light to her family, her children, her life. Everything about her was Energy Plus. Her love of horses, but especially her love of her children and of MSU. Her parents are with us today, John and Joanne Spindler. I won't make you stand. Can we present a flower? Joyce Sigafus. I knew Joyce for 30 years. She was my mother's age. She was my friend's mother. We did a lot of things together, but for probably 15 years, we spent every Christmas Eve together after church. Joyce passed away this March. Her daughter lives in Seattle, and in Joyce's memory, Joyce Sigafus. Nancy Joan Dory. Nancy was the beloved wife of our own Tom Dory. Nancy didn't come very much, not because she didn't have a very deep belief, but her family meant more than anything to her. The children that they raised together to form a household of love that continues on. Tom said to me today, I can't stay for fellowship time. You better talk to Edith because the children are having a dinner and a get-together. Very important. We honor Nancy Dory. Jackie Burrell. Jackie was married for 63 years. Her and her husband, Fred, were members of the church. They raised 2 children. They loved to travel all around. Jackie passed away January 3rd of this year. Evelyn Harrelson Becker. Evelyn was a mother of 3. She was an active member at First Congregational Church for more than 30 years until she moved to the Florida area. She was a bridge champion. She was the youngest life master on record. She loved to travel. Evelyn Becker. Richard Lucas. Richard Lucas was a member of ours, Kim Aris, her father. Richard passed away March 30th of this year, leaving Alexis and Elizabeth, the granddaughters. We raise Richard as a saint. Our own Shirley Pinzik. Shirley, a longtime resident of the Owasso area. She worked for the Mitchell Corporation. Shirley was a member of our worship team. She also sang in the choir for many, many, many years. Shirley, beloved mother and saint, who passed away March 29th of this year. My own Terry Lee Anderson. Terry Lee was one of my cousins. A Vietnam vet, a redhead. Does that give you any description of his possible kind of personality? We loved him dearly. He was very involved in the Marine Corps League, doing Toys for Tots. All of their dinners, all of their fundraisers were represented today by 2 Marines from that Corps. But we're also represented by his wife, Luann, and his mother, Irma. If you 2 could stand. That's my cousin and my aunt, Terry Anderson. Dorothy Kircher. Beloved Dorothy, who used to sit back there until a couple of years ago when she became so ill and they moved her back to her beloved home on the lake in Frankfurt, where she went into an assisted living. Dorothy passed away July 4th this year. Her only child, Kathy, and her husband, Bill, came and worshiped with us the whole time that they were down here helping her. We lift Dorothy Kircher as a saint. There is no more suffering, no more sainthood, no more tragedy than a family who has to bury 2 of their children. But I don't know anyone stronger in the faith than Joanne and John Spindler, as we had to bury Jerry. Jerry graduated from Owasso High School. She attended Ferris State University. But here's Jerry. She was champion Michigan Horse Show Association saddle breed. She was the one on the beautiful white horse that would parade in before a race. That was Jerry. She was the one with the big smile, just like her sister. Fierce competitor, fierce trainer. She was the only woman up until 1994 as a driver at the Northville Downs. Jerry Spindler, the Spindlers are here. Dan Jones. I had the privilege of getting to know the Jones family when Dan was suddenly taken from us with a freak accident on M52 this summer. Dan had graduated from Owasso High School. He was a member of the Old Michigan Tractor Association. He used to be the manager at the G.C. Murphy's here in town. Some of you may remember. He worked at Universal Electric and Industrial Supply. But here was Dan. He was so gentle. He had the soul of a gentle giant. Loved by his family. He loved more than anything. Sunday dinners, every Sunday, home around the table. And his favorite holiday, Halloween. Favorite holiday. I'll never forget that. And today, the Joneses are represented by Dan's father, Richard, his mother, Patricia, his sisters, his nephew that he loved dearly, niece and nephew. So the Joneses. I present Dan Jones as a saint. I had another privilege to meet a family. Her name was Deborah Elaine. Graduating from Owasso High School, earning a bachelor's degree in sociology from Western Michigan University, she was a social worker in Genesee County for her career. She was loved by her lifelong partner, Patricia. She was loved by her friends. She had a dirty, secret little habit. It's not dirty and it's not secret at all. She loved going to the poker room. She had so many friends there. She just became alive. I've heard from a lot of them who said, I remember that you did her service. We were so happy. Today, Deborah's wife is here, Patty. Patty, please stand as we recognize Deborah as a saint in our midst. Pauline went downstairs, but our entire church reached out as Jennifer Chunko lost her battle on August 27th. Jennifer was the mother of our 2 beloved little ones, Dante and Deanna. She was Pauline's granddaughter. We lift to you, Jennifer Chunko. Again, I had the privilege of being able to officiate at the McMillan funeral for Wes, Chris's dad. Lots of funny stories told about Chris's dad. One, of course, was our own Bill Kilburn, who said, "Oh, that's the guy who rode with a monkey on his motorcycle all over town." I loved that visual. Love that visual. To the entire McMillan family, Deb and Chris are here. May I present Donald Wes McMillan. Brandon, your mother-in-law passed away just a few weeks ago, very suddenly. And we always will remember Barbara Jean Barrow. I dropped the R, but I said it. Sorry. Go right ahead. We lift to you Pete Mirko, Pauline's husband, who passed away several years ago. But Pete was such an influence on Dante and Deanna. We also lift Jean Torkinson. Where's my Amy? How bad did I do? Did I? Okay, that's a hard name. Jean Torkinson. And Jean was a husband to one of Amy's very good friends out in the Seattle area, correct? Who passed away. Bill, Amy is here representing. Thank you. This is hard. One of our current saints who is still living, but who is hospitalized right now, Flora Johnson, lost her son several years ago, Dr. David Bartram, and then lost her first husband, Colin Johnson. And so we raised Dr. David Bartram and we raised Colin Johnson as saints. And David Stambaugh, a saint to be remembered. I will take names from within the congregation. Please stand up and tell us your saint that you would like to recognize. Ray Priest. Bonnie, go ahead and deliver the flower. Yes, Jeff.
My mom, which I read back about.
Yes. Pardon me? Thank you. We have another flower going here. Anybody else? Jean.
Our son, Neil Andrew Curtis.
Neil Andrew Curtis. To the Curtises. Yes, Carol.
My son-in-law, David R. Hartman, and my mother, Mary Ann Landers.
Okay, David and Mary Ann. Yes, Doris. Arden Hollick, our own Arden. You've had a lot of loss this year, Ken.
My sister, Lucille Bishop, and my niece, Patty Sands.
Okay.
Karen Friday.
2. No, I did not. I'm sorry. Yes, Sue. Bob Martin.
Karen Friday.
Jeff.
Irene Nidal.
Irene Nidal. I was looking back on my Facebook today. It popped up as a memory that 3 years ago, it was Karen Friday's funeral here. I lift Karen Friday. Yes, Bill.
Julie Kilburn.
Craig Kilburn. These are people in our lives and in our memories that will live forever. I thank you very much for taking part of, I don't know why we're getting feedback, and I'm sorry. Thank you very much. If you are able, please stand as we